we'll go ahead and get started, and then as people join, they can pop into the chat there. You're all very welcome. My name is Lee Graves Wolf, and my colleague David Jennings and I are very happy to welcome you to the third season of the Teaching Toolkit Thursdays. This has been a running series that we started as a way to highlight and signpost resources that we have available in teaching and learning on our website. It's sort of a way of bringing those to life for a few minutes, and then also giving us a chance to chat with each other around the topic of the day. The chat portion, as Davis has mentioned in the chat here, is not recorded. It's meant to be a space where you can openly share questions or share your own teaching practices, ideas. A chance for us all to sort of chat together. But our topic for today is generative AI, and we'll be sharing some newly produced teaching and learning resources we have for you, giving you sort of an update as to where things are for the 25-26 academic year. And as I go along, David is going to pop the resources into the chat, so you don't have to worry about writing down URLs. Those will be in the chat for you. And then at the end of the session, we'll also share the full slide deck, so you'll have those as a resource for you as well. So we'll get started with this image, which I think is a nice one to sort of evoke thoughts about the state of generative AI right now. A lot of the first images you might have seen around generative AI that would come out would show a brain and technology and things connecting. And it's, as we all know, more complex than that. So the first resource we have to share in the chat here is this wonderful website called Better Images of AI. That's a Creative Commons website that has quite a few images in their image library to help evoke conversation and to go sort of beyond that maybe stereotypical robot mind idea that we might get when we're thinking about generative AI. And as I mentioned, we have a new website that just went up just before the academic year started. If you go to the Teaching and Learning website and then go under resources, that will take you directly to our generative AI resource page. And this session this afternoon will take you through all of the resources that we've put together, and we'll also share some opportunities for continuing conversations on this topic that is clearly a part now of our teaching and learning practices, and will help us think through how we are as individuals in our roles dealing with generative AI, and then how we as a university and as a country are also dealing with generative AI. So we'll start there with a big, broad view of sort of the status of generative AI broadly. The HEA also has a website, a portal for artificial intelligence in higher education. And on that site, they have guidelines, resources, case studies that they've gathered over the past few years that they share. And a breaking news resource that just came out yesterday is this report on sectorial perspectives. Over the past year, the HEA engaged in a series of focus groups with several different stakeholders, and this is the result of that report. That report is being fed back into the guidelines that they will be releasing at in the next few months. So that will give institutions in Ireland a better idea of how to align nationally. We all, if you are keeping an eye on what's happening at this high level, many institutions, we've all sort of been left to our own devices to come up with regulations and to sort of find our way through this space. But I think this is a step in a good direction to take and see what everyone has been doing across Ireland, and to come up with a cohesive structure for us to think about how Gen AI and higher education intersect. And so if we take that higher level view now down to where we are here at UCD, we have a few things that have been in place now that you may or may not know about. But last year, so we're a year now into the academic integrity policy having language around generative AI. And in that language, the policy basically allows the module coordinator to have the choice of whether or not generative AI is used in their module or not. And that if students use generative AI and if it's allowed, it has to be very transparent in terms of how the students attribute and very explicit attribution of the use of generative AI. So what you see on the screen now and what David has put in the chat for you is the direct link to this policy language. But we obviously need some more support and sharing around how this works, which we'll be starting to do in this session here and also doing throughout the rest of this year. There's an additional piece that's important for those of you that are module coordinators on the Zoom this afternoon, is that we do need to, in our module descriptor under the Content Learning Outcomes tab, explicitly state for students whether or not and to what extent AI can be used in your module. This was sent out in an email to academic staff, and a lot of times we have email overload and things can be missed. And this is one, it's just a small line that many have missed. So if you have, don't despair, but keep it in mind moving forward. And we'll also share some supports around the language that you could potentially use in that module descriptor. But the key takeaway here to remember is that explicit conversation with students is really the important piece here, and to be very explicit around whether it's allowed and then again to what extent. And we'll share some resources around that. On the website that I mentioned, we have a tab specifically for generative AI at UCD and resources that are available here at the university. There's several new things that have come online in the past couple of months. The first one that is really important to signpost are the AI governance principles. So these are high-level university principles around AI governance. And those sort of cross all different pieces of the institution, from IT to our teaching to administration. And these principles give us some guidance on to the language and the use of AI. Those principles are human-centric AI oversight, fairness and equity, transparency and accountability, safe, secure, and compliant, ethical design and sustainability, building AI literacy, stakeholder engagement and collaboration, and risk management and mitigation. I'm not going to do a deep dive into each of those, but under each of those sort of key categories, it gives a little bit more guidance around how those can be enacted through our work. Another important page to signpost is the website that is up now from IT Services, which shares all of the tools that UCD is supporting that are AI related. So UCD currently has Gemini, which is an AI tool. We're all on Zoom right now. I'm not using the AI companion at the moment, but there is a button that you can press if you're on a Zoom call that allows AI to listen into the meeting and provide a summary of the meeting and meeting notes. Notebook LM is a tool also put out by Google, which allows yourself or students to upload documents from a class or a module, and then it will create a whole series of learning activities around those objects. It will create a summary podcast of the, let's say you uploaded meeting notes from your class and a slide deck. It'll give you a brief podcast overview. It will create quizzes. It will do note cards. It's sort of meant to be a learning aid and learning tool. And there's a note there on Copilot. As you know, there is a transition to Microsoft coming up. We do currently have access to Microsoft tools at UCD, and there is a limited version of Copilot that we can use with our UCD email addresses, but that may, as everything sort of continues to change and shift, may in the future change. And a lot of times too, with these tools, we, since they're outsourced, we're beholden to the companies. Right now with Microsoft and Gemini, and Google rather, there's options to toggle things on and off in terms of the backend administrative side. Who knows, as technologies evolve, it may just be a default part of these tools that we continue to use. So being aware of what we have access to and can use from a university perspective is extraordinarily important. And then just some other things to signpost for you there. The library has a fantastic guide on the use of AI that gives further guidance, especially around the citation and giving acknowledgement to how to cite AI through different types of referencing formats, whether it be APA or Chicago style, whatever is used in your discipline. The College of Arts and Humanities engaged in a large-scale saddle project over the past few academic years, and they have an AI Futures website with a case study book that has a tremendous amount of resources available in there. There was another saddle project called Are You AI Ready? And that is integrated, their faculty and student guide is integrated into Brightspace as an Explore module. So if you yourself wanted to take the Explore module, it's a great introduction to AI tools broadly. If you wanted to use it with your students as well, their students also have access to the Brightspace module, and they receive a certificate of completion after doing that as well. So there's quite a few resources that have been building over the past couple of years here at UCD. The next piece to discuss is digital literacy, which is a really important piece. And I've already mentioned the word AI literacy, but AI literacy is sort of couched within this broader space of understanding the digital world that we live in. And I came across this image a little while ago, and I think it nicely encapsulates some of the challenges that we face when talking about generative AI. And it says ethically engaging with an unethical tool. There's a lot of discussion around large scale generative AI tools, large language learning models, and how they're trained. So if you haven't done a primer on AI yet, large language models are the backbone of generative AI tools, and they learn through taking in all sorts of data and information, and algorithms are applied to those, and then they generate an output. And there is quite a bit of controversy over the use of data in these tools. So if you've published academically in academic journals, there are journals that are open source. There are journals that are selling their databases to large scale models. And so you may not have given permission for your article or your academic work to train the model, but it's already in there. And so there's some scholars who will say that there is no way to engage ethically with an LLM or a generative AI tool. And so what do we do from there if we are going to use those? And there is support around that. There's a great group called the Civics of Technology, And they're an international group of academics who have created a ton of resources. For digital literacy is where they started, but because of generative AI, they have some other tools that are specific to generative AI. And these are tools that you can, heuristics that you can do yourself that allow you to have those sort of deep conversations or interrogations of the tools that we're using and thinking about how to ethically engage and move forward with using them. So that's a great resource to point to. And then finally, we'll chat briefly here around generative AI and assessment. This is where a lot of the questions that we get in teaching and learning, and a lot of our time that we've spent in generative AI has been focused on assessment, because that seems to be the place where it is bringing up the most conversation. And I don't expect you to read through this right now, but my colleague Geraldine O'Neill and myself, mostly Geraldine, on the Generative AI website has pulled together this great page and resource here around the broad challenges of generative AI and assessment. And what she has done here is provided sort of the big picture of the challenges, and then provided a lot of resources around building upon a lot of the work that she's already done and we here at Teaching and Learning have done around the assessment of, for, and as learning, and sort of bringing that generative AI lens into that and how that impacts assessment moving forward. And one of the things to mention here in this space is in our own modules in teaching and learning, and in Geraldine's module in particular, the way she approached this through assignments to give faculty and staff a space to play with this was to allow them to use AI in assignments, either to do the assignment to quote unquote cheat to see what AI might spit out, to the choice to use AI as a thought partner for ideas, or the choice also to not use AI, which is, I think, a really important, and in a lot of the literature that we've read so far, this is sort of a unique aspect to that. There are many students and faculty who do not want to engage with AI as well. So this idea of giving a choice is building that literacy and really making us think through how, why we're using or not using generative AI in our teaching and learning practices. Another quick thing to mention is something called the AI assessment scale. If you've already looked at the resources that the College of Arts and Humanities have put together, they as a college decided to use a traffic light system, it was very transparent and a fantastic start to the conversation. One of the challenges they had with the traffic light were green was you can use AI, yellow was AI, but with some sort of caveats around it, and red light was no use of AI at all. And while there were three choices there, it was binary. It was either people allowed it or didn't, and that yellow area was a bit gray. The AI assessment scale was created by Perkins et al. And this has been taken on by quite a few universities. UNESCO is promoting the AI assessment scale as well. And it's also Creative Commons, so you can adapt and use this to your needs. The College of Science right now is piloting this assessment scale in one of their modules. They've made some modifications, and it's going live this autumn. And it's really a matter right now. There's not going to be a top-down directive of what to use, but it's thinking programmatically how AI is going to impact assessment in your discipline. The other thing we have found is that is such a huge range of differences across discipline that no one scale or directive is going to cover appropriately all of our disciplines. So it's really important to take that program level approach, which we'll talk about supports for that as well. So to sort of wrap up here, we are in that sandbox mode in teaching and learning. We're really trying to help give space to ideas and opportunities to deal with all of the complexities um, and um, and innovation and excitement that can come from using these tools as well. So in terms of upcoming opportunities, our website will be continually updated. So if you want to just bookmark this site, it's a great one to continue to go to. And under current activities here, you can see what's coming up for this coming trimester, and we'll be updating that with trimester 2 soon as well. So we're kicking off sort of conversations now with this teaching toolkit Thursday. There's an event coming up on Tuesday. Geraldine will be speaking at that through the Royal Irish Academy. It's hybrid, so their in-person is sold out at the moment, but the hybrid event still has tickets available. We'll be running a program level in-person workshop in October to talk about that program approach, thinking about that statement for the module descriptor, and thinking about, from a curriculum standpoint, how you might want to integrate AI into program outcomes. And then we'll be kicking off a webinar series starting in November with Dr. James O'Sullivan, who's been on secondment through the Higher Education Authority to kind of give us that big picture of Gen AI. And then in the spring trimester, we'll have some other external experts coming in to give us conversations and ideas. And there's two opportunities I'd like to share as well. The first is Generative AI Interdisciplinary Research Group. This will be a group of faculty, so this is an opportunity for faculty to come together to do a self-study and some action research around how AI is impacting their discipline, and the output of that will be a conference presentation. So applications for that are due September 30th. And then my colleague, Leonie Gately, who's on the call right now, she and I are working very closely on all of this AI work. She will be leading an AI tool exploratory special interest group. And this will be a group that's for all faculty and staff, anyone that supports teaching and learning at UCD, and will give you a chance for a small bursary to play in the sandbox with an AI tool and to share that experience with others. And again, refresh this page frequently. The application for that will be up shortly, and that will be sent out via email challenges or channels as well. And then one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but that is deeply a part of this work, are our student as partners. We will have student partners in teaching and learning coming on board again this academic year, and they will be deeply integrated into all of this work. And we will be organizing online and in-person panel events where staff and students will be talking with each other about generative AI for the community as well. So keep an eye out for that on all of our channels. We'll post on WorkVivo and our Google chat group and all of the spaces where we can get messages out your way. So the final thing, just to briefly mention here, is we have some upcoming dates for the next teaching toolkits. Our next October session will be around key assessment types, so we'll be going over all of those. And then in November, we'll be talking about blended learning. And our students as partners are also very key to teaching toolkit. They haven't been hired on yet. You're not seeing them yet, but you'll see them in the spring sessions as well, and they'll help direct the topics for spring and co-facilitate these sessions as well.